All right, we're back, and I figured this was a good time to do a live here. And what am I working on here? And I would show you here. You just have to take my, well, I'll tilt it back here a little bit so you can see. This is an '06 WR450 engine here. It's a buddy's of mine. Obviously, we're doing this live. And I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to share something with you. Um, I might have to go get something, but I might not. What we're going to do here is we're going to split the cases on this engine. Why are we doing that? It's because this counter shaft over here, the splines on it are toast. And it's actually worn down to absolutely nothing here. It's in bad shape, and the only way to fix this is to take this engine completely apart and replace the counter shaft. So we're going to do a few fixes. Something about this from my reading is, we got a shift fork and a third and a fifth wheel on the main shaft that we'll also replace. It's because that's fifth gear. That has the fifth gear, and they didn't fix those until like '08 or '09. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that. This is kind of an emergency fix because my friend's dad, really good close friend of mine, his dad went out for a ride and he was going pretty good. He clutched up and then he went to get going and he was like, uh-oh, something's not right. And it completely got ate. How did this happen? The nut backed off enough and it allowed this to wash a little bit. And it's important to have your nut tight, and there's a spline washer that sets between the nut and the sprocket that you need to bend over the ears. Well, we almost said something dirty. Bend over the ears of that washer. And I like to put a little bit of thread lock on it and properly torque it down. If it was a DRZ, I'd be able to tell you the spec on that. 79.5. But what we're going to do real quick is we're going to do a little bit. It's kind of like the math teacher. We're going to show our work. I've already taken this off, this valve cover off. We're just going to get right into it. Taking this valve cover off, I'll be putting it back together here in a minute. But what I want to do is I want to make some observations as we tear this down. We're just going to take the top end off today. And this is a 5-valve Yamaha, which I love these things. These are my favorite engines, even more favorite than the DRZ. But, I'm being honest here. I mean, there's no reason to lie about it. But what we do need to do, we need to do a little homework. We need to show our work like we did for the math teacher. And one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to measure the valve clearances. And this can be a little tedious, but I'm also, get the magic marker out here, 5-valve Yamaha. And this might be a little bit upside down for you, but it gives you the gist of it. We got 3 intake valves. Later on, I'll be placing the buckets with the shims, and when we take the head apart, take the valves out, I'll also put the little claspers for the valves. You'll see. And then 2 exhaust. And I'm just writing exhaust and in. If I was just doing a valve clearance check, I'd write the spec here, and I'd write the spec here for it, and under each one of them, which is what I'm going to do anyway, what I measured. And I do believe it's a pretty wide range for the exhaust. I think it's 0.15 to 0.25, I think. Don't quote me on that. I haven't downloaded the manual yet, but I think it's like somewhere in the 0.10 millimeters to 0.15 millimeters on the intakes. And I think it's at But we're going to go ahead and measure it real quick before we get into the nitty gritty on it. I do have it at top dead center here. And oh, I put it over my tools, I think. Come on, Dewey, you're supposed to be prepared. It was sitting here hiding in the plain sight. And these are just my feeler gauges. And don't fret if it's getting late on you. It'll be fine. I'm going to leave this up and save it. All right, so here's a 0.102. These are initially standard sizes here. And I'm just going to go in here between the bucket and the cam and try to stick it in there. Ooh, that's tight. Is that correct? 0.102. That one's tight. Oh no, that's good. It's just fitting. I was hitting it on the head here. And I'm gonna go ahead and test the center one. That one fits a little bit smoother, and the one on this end fits a little smoother. So I'm just gonna step it up the next size, and I think that's 0.127, and this is millimeters. No, that one ain't happening. So on the first one, which is the one closest to you, I'm going to write 0.102. And that's on the tight end of spec. And so we're going to measure the center valve, which is usually the one that on the intake that gets tight first, because going into this intake port, you have your accelerator pump on your carburetor. Every time you go to 0, it goes to 1. And it just squirts a straight shot into there. And usually the thing in this dead in the middle is the one that takes the most of that. So you think about this, a hot engine, and then you squirt extra fuel when you go to 0 throttle to full rolling into the throttle, and it hits that center one. Surprisingly, that's not the case on this. And old school, people would take apart those. I haven't found one. I haven't seen them. I just read about them. There was some wizard, a level 10 boss wizard, that would take and trident those things in just a certain way, so it would squirt equally down those to each of those valves and spread out that load, and it hit a lot harder. But I haven't seen those. And on a 2 valve, you'd probably want it to be a different way. That one ain't taking it. That one ain't taking it. Running into a brick wall. So even though it went loose on those other 2, the drag was a firm drag on the first one, but it was a smoother drag. But we're still going to call it the same setting. And now, why am I doing this now? Why don't you just rip this thing down, Dewey? There's a method to my madness. Any data that we can get is going to be valuable data before we tear this thing down. Quite frankly, judging by the way things looked when I was going to get into this, and I'm also going to look at these, somebody might have been onto these, because that feels a little sharp on the corners. Someone might have done this, but the valve cover access screws, bolts, they didn't seem like anything had been in there. So either someone had some really precise tools. I'm measuring a 0.15 here. Either they had some really precise tools, or they were very careful, or they replaced them all together. Oh, that's nice and smooth. That's good. So 0.15. We're going to go up to the next size, which I think is a 0.178. That's a pretty firm drag. That's probably going to end up being our setting on this one. 0.178. We're going to go up to the next one. Someone, if they did adjust these, did a really good job. Now I'm going to look here in a minute and see if anybody's commented on there. So just be, pardon, please be patient with me. And here's one that I've used so much. It's so worn. It's like a 220 or something like that. That ain't happening. I can stuff it in there, but it ain't happening. So 1.178 for both of those. Just because it'll go in there doesn't necessarily mean that it should be in there. Again, I could go a dirty route with that, but I'm not going to. So 0.178, 0.178. And I'm just going to go ahead and put an F and an F on that for firm drag. So I have this data on these valves, and when we take these shims out, I'll be able to go back on it, and I'll have some data on it before I go putting them back together. So I'm gonna look real quick. Let's see if we have any comments or anything. Okay, we're in here. Yep. I don't see anybody chatting. Oh, somebody said hi. Okay, good. Well, thanks a lot for stopping by. So we're gonna go right into this. This is that top dead center. First thing I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take the tension off of our cam chain tensioner, and the easiest way to do that is just to uninstall it. And was I silly? No, I wasn't. Okay, good. But the smart thing to do is to, well, this has got the scroll spring on it, so we're going to need this loosened for when we reinstall it. Okay, so when both of these bolts are tight, I can easily loosen it. So, and something I'm a little bit concerned about is this may be the slop in this chain. Will be replacing the cam chain with this rebuild. We're going to refresh this engine. I'm talking about crankshaft, maybe even a jug. Definitely going to put a piston in it. All the bottom end bearings, and obviously the counter shaft and those components of the main shaft to refresh this all up. Any of the circlips, any of the washers, we're going to replace those when we're gaining access to those parts. And if I see any wear on any of those other components. So I'm going to cheat just a little bit, and I'm going to use my tool. The other thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to come over here and we'll have to, this is the old school, okay? So our oil supply comes from our oil pump here. It goes over here to our transmission oiling and our top end oiling. So we'll remove that as well next. I've got some baggies over here to my side to be able to properly store those. Over here to the side, I've got some storage bins that I procured so that we can keep things organized here. Actually, I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to get a baggie out here for these here. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and break these loose, then go to that point. Oh, the one thing that I did not grab, no, I did grab it. Hey, look at there, is I got my magnet. These style of cams, these cams have a little clip that sits right here, and it aligns the cams to the head. So we'll be I'll need to make sure and hang on to those. If you're doing a valve adjustment on one of these or any of these, you should have that magnet ready. So just in case that one of those clips try to fall down in the engine, you can get right to it. So I broke that one loose, broke that one loose. And what this thing's going to do is going to want to go to full tension. That's fine. I know how to handle that. These scroll in, so I have my I'll have to have my magic screwdriver ready. Yeah, there we go. So we got our plunger. And so what we do is when we reset this, I'll take this end cap off and I can just twist it in. And what that does is it pulls this plunger in. I'm going to go ahead and put the other components. I'll probably put these caps and their corresponding bolts in this so they're kept together. So let me see. This is an 8mm by the way. Okay. So I broke that one loose. And I'm going in a crisscross pattern here. Oh, it doesn't like that. So my fatty here, this 3/8, it does not like it. So I'm going to have to disappear for just a second and get my my 1/4-inch drive. So we go here, I'll go to this corner, and I'll go to that corner, I go to this corner, and I go to this corner, and I've got to release that one. And I'm smelling that release there. I'm going to go ahead and go to this corner on the exhaust. Very important. Yeah, I'm going to have to use that on here because that's close to that gallery there. So just bear with me for just a second. I'm going to go grab my 1/4-inch drive. I think it's in there. Yeah. I'll be right back. Keep your pants on. Sorry, it took me a minute. Sometimes I get that mindset of going through and working on stuff. I thought about getting the drive on this, but I'm not going to do that. I don't need an extension because this is a deep well. All right, broke that one loose. There we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and manually back those all the way out. So this is kind of an emergency fix, if you will. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to take these and put those in with the cam chain tensioner. When we reinstall these, I'll be installing them with the proper torque. I don't think it calls for them to be dressed with any thread lock. So here's going to be the other part that, oh yeah, man, this is encouraging. This cap comes off quite easily, and I'm going to go ahead and place this in the area here. Yeah. Wow, that's in there pretty good. So this piece, this clip here, is what I was talking about. It sets down in this groove on the cam. So that's going to go in there too. I'm going to put the cams in a separate baggie just for the sake of space. We'll get there. So that came off relatively well. How will the exhaust side work? Because these have dowel pins that locate them. That went well. And so in this case, that clip stayed in the cap here. And you can see our dowel pins that set down in the head surface. Wow, this man, man, I love these things. A while back, and I don't think I did any video on this, one of my friends bought a project quad from a local power sports company called Mid-America Power Sports. And the engine had a ton of extras with it, but it was in half. It was just partially put back together. All the new bearings, it had all new bearings in the cases, and a brand new crankshaft just sitting there in this crate. And he bought the WR450. It was in as a roller. And this is just about the same engine. I don't know how they differ. Obviously, because of the weight, I would assume that the transmission would be beefier on it. I'm going to go ahead and take these cams out. I'm going to get my cam bag. And after I take these cams out, I'll come back and I'll check with you and see if there's anything. Take a look here. Looking at the buckets, looking at the journals here. It's just spotless. It looks great. It's in great shape. So it tells me that the oil's been at least mostly changed in a relative amount of time. If we weren't taking this engine apart, I would encourage, we'd be safety wiring this cam chain off the side. And real quick, I just felt something with the cam chain, and when zipper zippies, these are the cheapies, so this is why I have them. I can feel, oh gosh, yeah, this cam chain sucks. I can feel the binding in it. It's stretched, and it was time. So, if I had my detective hat on, I'd be saying, I think it's definitely time for a top end on it. So that's where we're at with this. So let's see, look, I got 12, a 12, and it looks like that might be a 12 also here. This can be a little bit risky, I guess I could say risky, because these are banjo bolts. This bolt, that bolt, and that bolt's a banjo bolt, like what's on your brake reservoirs. And I'm going to check real quick and see if there's any questions or comments on here. And hello from Australia. Well, hello. Thanks for checking in with us. And again, this is a WR450, an 06 WR450 engine. So I'm just going to see if I can break this loose nicely as I can. Oh. That broke loose. Very good. You know, I'm going to have to take this kick start off of here. That's a little sloppy. We'll see if we can tighten that up. We're just taking the top end off though right now. Come on, baby. That's nice. And that does have a torque setting as well. Oh, baby. I need to get a little bit different point of leverage here. Again, I'm not trying to horse this thing any more than I have to. Good, broke it loose. Okay. And of course, these have crush washers on them. Again, also, again, they'll get all new crush washers when we're done here. And I'm just going to go ahead and get them out of the way. Those are probably going to be too big for my plastic baggie. But we're going to give it the try here. I'm just going to go ahead and commit here. Oh, there I want a crush washer. And they'll get all new ones, and obviously we will practice our proper torque setting so we don't end up hurting these. You can see these are banjo bolts, they're hollow. So you can't, you know, one, you're steel going into an aluminum block. Okay. So these can be a problem. So what I've got over here is I've got a single 8mm on the jug, and I have two 10mm studs on this side that I've got to break loose. There's my 10. So these things are upside down, so lefty loosey dummy. Now all we're doing is taking the top end off today. I knew there was one of these that it probably won't fit because of the jug clearance. That's annoying. Come on. Go on there. I appreciate you guys being patient with me. And all it is I'm loosening these things off there because I don't want, when we break the head bolts loose, I don't want all that tension going on these bolts. I want to use the box end on this, but the clearance is just not allowing me. I don't like that. I'm pretty confident that this has never been off. Okay. I'm going to have to break out my gallon baggies. They're in another place here. So this is just a, like I said, this is just a nut here. And when I go to resurface the head on this, I'll have to remove these studs out of the head. I'm just going to set them right here. And now we got our 14 millimeter that's going to come out and party. I'm going to just double check here and make sure there's nothing. Here's something that's different on my head, on my YZ400 and WR400. They had a stud and a bolt on each end of the head here. And these don't have those. The other thing that it has, that mine has, where this plug is, that's a set screw plug, and over here there's a space on the head for a manual decompression lever. But let's see here, it's a 14. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use my torque wrench here. This might get a little bit chaotic. Let's see. Yeah, I'll need my extendo. Any questions? Anybody watching this, by the way? If you have any questions, put them in the comments or put them in the chat. I'll just go ahead and check the chat real quick. Anybody in here? Okay, yeah, I've just got our people from Australia. Well, hey, folks. Thanks for checking in. It shows we have 2 people on here. Make sure and like and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're subscribed. You got the bell notifications on here. We're 1,000 subscribers strong, and we're wanting to grow a little bit more. Again, this is a little precarious. Oh, that broke that one loose. I'm just breaking them loose here. So I'm going to go from here to here. And if I remember correctly, this bolt here, this head stud, is the longer one. And the other 3 are shorter. We'll make a comparison. But it also makes note of that in the service manual. Oh, baby. Oh. So if you're watching, if you're capable, I would like to ask for you to say something in the chat real quick, and I'll check on it in just a couple minutes. Say something, just a question, and I will address it. Oh, damn. Oh. Okay, and so that leaves this one here. So when we reassemble, oh, woo. Okay. Okay. When we reassemble, we'll have to make sure and use some lubricant on the threads and on the washers. Okay. I'm going to remove these I'm going to loosen all these studs all the way. Okay, so I'm going to check real quick. Hope you did your homework. Make sure and comment something. Thank you. Yo. Hey, Honda. What's up, buddy? Hey, Dom. What's up? Appreciate you stopping in. So this, again, to recap, this is a WR450 engine. And what's happened, it's the counter shaft here. The splines have all been destroyed because I think the nut has been allowed to walk off of it. Usually this happens on the, I don't know, I don't want to say it insensitively, but basically it's redheaded stepchild, the WR250X. Dom knows about those. He's got one that's a fresh engine that I did for a guy, and he got the bike. I need to give that bike a good rip sometime soon. Would you let me do that, bud? So we're head bolts. Okay. So these are the same length on this side. And I think these ones on this side are shorter. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah. So I'm setting them in their order, and I'll be doing that here in a second here. So you'll see this top end come off of there. Anybody else going to comment? Best guy. Well, I appreciate your confidence in me. Yeah. So that's what's going on. Again, all I'm going to do is pull the top end off of this. And again, we've done our homework here. I measured our valve clearances. Surprisingly, these things were in spec. Pretty crazy. So I'm going to take this head off of here. And real quick, this cam chain, it's chunky monkey. So, all right, double checking here, and let's just pull the head off of here. Yeah, here it comes. Whoop. Well, how about that? That doesn't look too bad. Ooh, that's pretty. As it just pisses some oil. All right, I'm over my splasher here. So I don't know how good you'll see it. I'm holding these buckets in place just so they don't slide out. But here's we got our head gasket in place here. And there's our valves. I'm going to take a look too. Well, if that's not interesting, yeah. You know, that center intake valve seems a little dark. Again, what I was talking about earlier. Look, see, it's a little darker. And it's because, yeah, man, that's pretty good. And so we got our dowel pins here, and then we've got our studs over here. When I resurface this, we'll be removing these studs. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, pretty impressive. So I'm just going to set that down over here out of sight for right now. This cylinder, wow, that looked pretty good. Okay, so this is our side that I have to get my magnet back out. Get that out of the way. And doggone it, if I don't have to, well, I might not have to. Let's see. I want to have it right here. And just so happens I have my extendo. There's a screw here that goes to the gasket, excuse me, the base. The base goes to the cases through the cylinder here, and it just holds it in place. Oh, there we go. And what I like to do with it is I like to put it in this other bag with the other components. And real quick, these bolts, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. I'm going to go ahead and put them on these studs. I've got some appropriately threaded nuts that I'm going to have to do the double nut technique to back these studs out. So I'm going to put that with this. It goes in here. I'm going to set it over there with it for now. So on these, this part of your cam chain guide, that feels like it's in good shape. It feels a little funky back here. But this part of the cam chain guide has its slot to go down in here. And if you don't have tension on your cam chain, you can't get it to slide into its spot. See, there's a slot here on the cylinder that it goes against, and it meets up. It's got a certain slot that it fits in here on it, and then down there by the crankshaft where the cam chain, it pretty much all but touches the cam chain down at the bottom. So that's why it's important to keep these relatively taut when you're doing like a valve adjustment. Okay, so we're just going to set this off to the side. This cam chain's goose is cooked. So I'm looking at this piston. It looks somewhat fresh. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes these can be a little stubborn. I might have to get the dead blow real quick. Yeah. Because there's a dowel pin over here for the water pump. Yeah, I'm going to get the dead blow. In the meantime, cook up something for me to talk about. Comment, please. Please clap. Please comment. Please clap.
Dewey's hammer. Let's see.
There it comes. I'm gonna come. So this is setting on dowel pins as well, like I was saying. It's what I like about this design. Yeah. Looking here. Yeah. This is pretty polished. There's some cross hatching here, but it's pretty polished in other areas. Let me see if I can display that for you. For any of my DRZ friends, on, I don't have it here handy, but I had a jug over here. On the base gasket of the DRZ, there's just kind of like a pentagon shape. It's kind of a fat pentagon, and the only thing holding the coolant in its place on the DRZ is just a indentation point all over around the base gasket here. And there's no O-ring, there's no dowel pin. But this is not only a dowel pin, but it's a dowel pin with an O-ring around it, and that's just fantastic. And our dowel pin, one of our dowel pins stayed in the cylinder here. The other one stayed in the cases. And yeah, I'll work on that later as well. But I don't know if it'll even show. Let me see if I can show you. I'm going to look through the camera here. Yeah, nobody's watching right now. So what we're looking at here, you see that polish spot right there? That is the intake side where the piston was really polishing it. And on the exhaust side is doing the same thing, but it's wider. See how that's a big polish spot towards the middle of this cylinder? And there's kind of some streak points. That's a used up cylinder. Boo. But that's the way she goes sometimes, boys. Way of the road. But we got the top end disassembled here. Piston's not in bad shape. Yeah, there's some scoring on the exhaust side here. And I'm just going to eyeball it here. Yeah. Let's do just a little bit of investigation here. We're taking the top compression ring. There's two compression rings on this, a top and a bottom one. And let's just put him down. And again, this is not perfect science here because I don't have the piston to drive it down yet. It's been a long day, and I'm going to call it a day after this. But what we're going to do is kind of roughly get this in the cylinder here. Roughly the same depth all the way around. Again, this is an eyeballing, okay? This is not a perfect technique here. And what we're going to show you here is our ring-in gap. So, yeah, that's kind of hard to see. You see that gap there? That's probably not an egregious one, which is why this thing wasn't smoking. But, you know, I'm going to measure that when we get the piston out. I'm not going to do that. I'm tired. But I just wanted to share real quick, folks. That completes the top end tear down. And I think I'm just going to do most of this that I'm going to share live. And you can do it with what you want to. Tomorrow or the next time, I think what we'll do is tear down the clutch side. And then we'll tear down the stator side. We might get to that tomorrow or the next time that we do this. Yeah, take the piston off. And then we'll call it good. And so that's where we're at. I want to say thank you for watching. Make sure and subscribe, like this. Again, I'm going to put it on to where you can see it. You can look at it at your leisure. and this is kind of an emergency fix. I really don't have time to be doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I like these things. I like these WR450s. So we'll see you next time.